All right, and we're back. I believe this is episode number 7 of the Who Dat series. We discussed this on a couple previous videos this week, or I guess last week. And this one's going to cover defensive back Jordan Mukes. Very versatile guy. Brandon is joining us for this video. He's been off for the last few for various obligations, and I'm Brumbaugh, and then this is Jose. And we appreciate the support. Make sure to keep liking, commenting, subscribing. We really appreciate it, and it helps us out quite a bit. And it lets us know that we're doing great content and you guys enjoy it. So we'll get right into it. Obviously, this one's over Jordan Mukes. He's a safety, and 247 has him listed at 6'4", but the OU roster has him at 6'1", so maybe he's somewhere in the middle. I don't know how 3 inches of variation happens. He's around 200 pounds. He's from Choctaw, or he went to Choctaw High School in Midwest City, so he's an Oklahoma grown kid. 4-star player, according to 247. He was the number 166th player in the country, number 10 safety, and the number 4 player in Oklahoma. As a senior, he had 84 total tackles and 4 interceptions. And, his offer list wasn't huge, but he got offered by Oklahoma, Arkansas, Kansas, Iowa State, Mizzou, and Texas Tech. Very, very versatile player. Has great speed. He ran track and played basketball in high school. So he's a multi-sport athlete. Initially, when he committed and obviously signed, the first guy that I thought of as a comparison, not saying he's going to have the same career, is Robert Barnes. Started off as a safety and then transitioned into a linebacker. Obviously, it didn't really work out for him, and he's since transferred out of the program. I forget where he went.
Colorado.
He went to Colorado. Okay, but everyone remembers him for the truck stick that Josh Jacobs delivered to him.
To make it 21 or 28. Something. It was ugly when. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the first guy I think of. But Jose, what do you think about him?
I think we're gonna unfortunately not see him too much on the field. Probably his first year. He'll definitely have an impact at some point, from what I did a little bit of reading on and seeing some highlights. This guy is definitely raw still, very athletic. He's got a lot of potential with him. And I think being from a small school, probably didn't get like the high level coaching that some of the other guys get, some of the more hyped up recruits. So maybe the coaching staff sees him as very much a kid that they can fully develop into a safety or an off-ball linebacker. But he's definitely got the advantage of being a multi-sport athlete, being in track, and he can move up and down the field well. He probably doesn't get gassed like some of the other guys that only played football, which I guess isn't too many, but this kid obviously has athletic talent. Hopefully Grinch and the other DB coaches can just work with him, and he's got the potential to be a really impactful player definitely for the Sooners, and hopefully he can make it to the league after 4 or 5 years in Norman.
Oh, I guess I was muted. My bad. I was like, wait a minute, what's going on? And I'm thinking back on his recruitment. It's been a little bit, but I believe he wasn't offered in the very beginning, as a junior in high school or anything like that. I think he was a guy that Grinch got hired in and later identified him and offered him and, swooped in. And for some reason, I want to say he was a fan of Texas Tech. I can't remember. There was another school he was leaning towards. But then I think Grinch came in and offered, late, because he got hired late, and was able to keep him in state. I can't remember what team, but I'm pretty sure Grinch came in late on him and then swooped him up, probably just because of his frame and athletic ability. Extremely raw, like you said, Jose. Brandon, what else are you thinking about him? Anything in particular?
No, the only thing I was thinking is I'm gonna kind of go off with what Jose was saying, and kind of like what you were saying. Like, he's a track kid. He's obviously got speed. He can, he's very raw, very athletic. But the thing he has that Robert Barnes didn't have is Alex Grinch. You know what I mean? So Robert Barnes is playing with as his defensive coordinator, Ruffin McNeil, obviously, and probably Mike Stoops, which no disrespect to those guys, but they're not Alex Grinch. So this kid has a leg up on them already, just because he's playing with a very great defensive mind. I think Grinch will find a role for him. Hopefully, like Ho said, I don't really care about the NFL with him. Hopefully he's productive and contributes to OU.
Yeah, he might be able to cycle in, and play a few snaps, especially in the first few games that might be blowouts. He might get some snaps in there, and maybe they'll redshirt him this year. But it just provides great depth, because we were talking before we recorded. I mean, as far as safeties go, I mean, we've got Pat Fields, DTY, Justin Harrington. Then you've got Key Lawrence, which Key could definitely push for a starting role. Maybe he might start over Patrick Fields halfway through the season. I don't know. And then you've got the Jeremiah Cradell, who could be that floating guy that I feel like can play safety, but also could play the slot corner. I know he's supposed to replace Bookie, Billy Bowman they might split time, or Bowman might start over him. I don't know. We're finally starting to get some size in the defensive back room, and he could see the field or he might not. I don't know. It just depends. And for the first time, it's like we've actually got some legitimate competition at these spots. And It's been a very long time since we've had such a thing.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing you said right there. Is like, for the first time in at least like the very foreseeable future, we have guys that, can play. Like Key Lawrence, I can see him starting. If not at safety, he's a guy that can play in like the slot situations. If him or Cordell, it's going to be, who knows. Billy Bowman, like you mentioned too. He's joining a very crowded defensive back room for the first time in how long? Do you guys remember the last time we had a very loaded defensive back room?
Been a long time.
Been a long time. But there's also the potential, and it'll be quick so you can get back to your thought on it, that he may be a guy that develops with us for a couple years, shows a few good games on tape when it's those games that don't really matter, and he transfers to a different program and excels there. I mean, we are starting to get a lot of defensive talent in these upcoming recruiting classes, and like you guys have been saying, our defenses are kind of getting stacked, so he may kind of just drown out in the background and potentially be a transfer prospect in the next coming years.
Yeah, and he, like I was talking about, like comparing him to Robert Barnes, if the Sooners do get in a pinch for a linebacker this year, they might look at transitioning him if they've got the defensive backfield pretty set after this year. There's a chance that maybe they switch him, put a few pounds on him, get him up to 220, 230, and get a little more muscle on him, and keep his speed but a little bit bigger. And he might play a different role. I think with that much athletic ability, and why Grinch liked him, and I know not everyone offered him, I think it's just that versatility, and it's all about the SpeedD. And it doesn't matter what position you in high school or previous college, if you can conform and perform, you'll see the field one way or another. And I mean, that's got to be a good selling point for a guy like him that might not be the biggest recruit, but I mean, he's just an athletic specimen, and that's probably why he's just not as polished, and that's probably why he wasn't quite highly as rated as some of the other guys.
He was a 4-star, and probably too big of a recruit for Oklahoma State to get, so they didn't even bother to try to offer the guy. So we got someone good.
Yeah, for sure.
Exactly. Like, having a 4-star player on your roster that you don't have to use, that's just a blessing that we haven't had in the longest time. Like we've talked about, like that's like some stuff that Alabama used to have, or probably still has, or Clemson, and what may have separated them from us in our playoff years. But now we have that kind of depth too, to we're like, hey, say even like Patrick Fields getting roasted, you bring this 4-star kid off the bench who can play safety, maybe settle it down a little bit, or if a linebacker is getting killed, you can bring him in and be like, it's nice.
Yeah, it's never gonna. We're not gonna have a defense as long as Grinch is there. I don't know if you remember the game, Brandon. I know we went to, and I think Jose, you were there too, when it was OU Baylor. We were at home. It was the year that was it Charlie Brewer. He got really hurt, broke his neck or something or broke his foot or something like that.
Yeah.
And where Mike Stoops had him line up literally 8 yards off, and then
No,
all they did
it
was
was like 12, 13 yards. And
Yeah,
all they do is run 6, 7 yard slants or curls, and it's there every single time.
I don't think we'll ever see that again. But it was the most ridiculous thing. Like we were so thin in the back, defensive backfield that literally they couldn't trust any of them to not let them just run right past them. So it was better off let them get 8 yards of play and just play basically 2-touch football and just let them march down the field.
The biggest game that comes to mind for me is we weren't there because it was in West Virginia. But do y'all remember when it was Bookie playing safety, and I think Westphal literally torched him for 4 or 5 deep balls for touchdowns.
Yes,
and at that point they brought in DTY as a backup.
Yeah,
and he's obviously solidified himself as the guy there. But like Bookie got roasted, I think, for 4 or 5 touchdowns deep on literally seam routes right down the middle of the field.
It wasn't even like a double move or anything. It was like, I'm just going to run past you and you're not going to keep up. And it was the most bizarre thing. It was like, it couldn't even be close. But I don't know. That's off on a tangent. But I think with the amount of talent and the great coaching, like you mentioned earlier, Brandon, about the leg up that these kids already have because of the coaching, I think it's going to be very noticeable over the next couple years. So, but do you guys have any other final comments or final notes?
Hopefully this guy gets to see the field soon. Who knows at what position? Maybe he'll be kind of an Isaiah Simmons kind of dude for us, but well, I guess we'll just have to wait and find out.
Just great depth is my biggest takeaway from him.
Yeah. So, well, we really appreciate the support, and make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and we'll keep the good content coming your way.
I will also say follow our Facebook, follow our Twitter, follow our Instagram, all at 2 Plain Sports. We just started a new Instagram, post there daily. Check it out too.
Yep, definitely. So appreciate it.
See you next week.